Hey, how's it going, guys? Hope you guys doing well. So we got ourselves a little bit of conundrum. When it comes to Sony 85mm 1.4 full frame lenses, there's just so many choices now. In fact, 3 of these 4 lenses just came out, so I guess it's a good problem to have. So in this video, I'm gonna compare all 4 of them for you guys in a practical manner. Now, I am a professional videographer. I shot over 100 weddings, but I do dabble in photography here and there whenever there's a little bit of green flashing on my face. Not gonna lie, conference photography does pay. So this video is gonna lean a little bit more towards videography, but I will talk about this one photography feature because one of these lenses actually falls short. And as a disclaimer, Sirui did send me this 85mm 1.4 Aurora series lens. This one just launched, and the other 3 lenses, I did actually rent these from lensrentals.com with my own money. So when it comes to sample footage, I'm naturally gonna have more of the Sirui lens videos because I just had that lens for a longer time. But that's why you're gonna see a lot of the practical tests I'm about to do in this video, because I want to be unbiased as possible, reviewing these for you guys so you can decide which one's right for you. But what are my manners? Let me introduce you to the actual contenders here. The first one here is the Sony 85mm 1.4 GM Mark II. This is the second version that just came out, and man, it's gonna be tough on these 3 guys, I tell you that. And the second contender here is the Sigma 85mm 1.4. Now this lens has been out for a little bit. And the third one over here, I just mentioned that this is a Sirui 85 1.4 Aurora lens. And this is an interesting one. So this one is the Rokinon, or Samyang if you're from a different country, 85mm 1.4. And this is the Mark II version, so somewhat recent also. And it is competing with the Sirui when it comes to pricing, so that's gonna be pretty interesting. All right, so let's start with the physical differences you can't tell from the websites or the pictures, and that's gonna be the hood first since it's already on here. So out of all 4, I just want to tell you guys the Sony hood is the only one with the actual rubber gasket on the end. So when you push the lens on a table, the other ones slide around, whereas in the Sony one is planted. All right, now that I've shown you guys, let me go ahead and circumcise all the lenses.
What did he say?
Now you get to see the true sizes. All right, before I put this away, I just want to mention the Sigma hood. I don't know what kind of mushroom hood this is. If you plan on bringing the hood, I think you should be aware of the fact that it does get significantly larger. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you are aware of that because the other lenses, the profile, the size, it doesn't get that much larger as you put the hood on. But yeah, that one, yeah, the little thick boy over here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and also take off the back caps because you really gotta see the size difference on these guys. I mean, like, look at these. Oh, did I just put it in the order of the sizes? No. I want to say, oh man, these 2 are so close, but because the thickness, I'm going to say this is the smallest when it comes to sizes. There you go. Now it's in the order of the sizes. And the Rokinon is just slightly taller than the Sirui one. And I'm going to go ahead and display the weights of these lenses right here. But I have to tell you guys, when it comes to weight, oh my goodness, the Sigma one is so much heavier in proportion to the actual size. And I want to say it's almost like front heavier too. Yeah, the Sony one, even though it is bigger, it feels proper and nice in my hand, whereas in the Sigma one, yeah, that is definitely front heavy. And it's largely due to the Sigma material choices. So this right here is like super thick, heavy metal material, whereas in the other ones, in fact, yeah, like the Sony one, it feels very cheap, by the way. Quality cheap plastic, whereas in the Rokinon, yeah, this one feels the cheapest. And the Sirui one, this one kind of surprised me. This is like aluminum housing. This one feels solid and light. That's the best way I can describe it. Now, all of these lenses have focus ring by wire. I don't use this feature as much because I rely on autofocus. But when it comes to the smoothness, this one feels pretty good, easy to spin smooth. But the Rokinon one, I have to tell you, it feels like sandpaper almost inside. So in terms of smoothness, not as smooth. And when it comes to dampening, I would say the Sigma has the most dampening. I do like that because if I put this lens on a manual focus and I accidentally hit it, this is not gonna spin. Whereas in the other 3, oh my goodness, I think the Sony has the loosest focus. Yeah, that one spins really easily. But when it comes to aperture ring, Sony does have an iris lock, meaning if you put this in auto and you lock this, yeah, that is not spinning. I do love that. Whereas in the Sirui one, I did already tell Sirui this problem. The aperture ring is so easy to just come out of auto because it is very smooth and there's no resistance to it much. Now it is declickable, so I can go off on the click and it is smooth to spin. And again, coming from auto to like f16, it's just really easy to accidentally hit that. And you'll notice that the Rokinon one doesn't have an aperture ring, but just one ring. And the way this works, it has the M1 and M2 custom button over here. So you have to select one or the other. So if you select one, that's gonna be the aperture. You select the other one, that's gonna be the actual focus. So I thought that was interesting. I should also mention that the Sigma one does have an aperture lock. So unlock and lock, so the aperture ring does not spin if you lock it. And you can tell by the pictures, they all have custom buttons. The Sony one have 2 of them. It's kind of hard to tell on the actual Sirui pictures because it's a square button. It's not a circle button. Just letting you guys know, this right here is a custom button. You can assign a feature to it from your Sony camera. And you'll notice that the Sirui one is the only one with the USB-C port right here, so you can update the firmware directly from your computer to this lens using a USB-C cable. Rokinon one is kind of funky. You have to buy this lens station and then you can update the firmware, whereas in these two you can update the firmware directly from the camera. Alright, so before we go outside and actually test the lenses, it is raining right now, hopefully it stops. So let's talk about weather sealing. So all 4 lenses do have a rubber gasket at the edge and they have weather sealing, but you really have to touch it to feel this. So Sony one, it has the flimsiest lip, I would say. That's the best way to describe it. Yeah, that's there, but man, after a long time of mounting and unmounting, this might get frayed, I'm afraid. Because the Sigma one, it's super thick, so in terms of durability, I like that Sigma better. But when it comes to Rokinon, I don't know why they bother. So there is a rubber gasket there, but it's so, here, let me get closer. It's barely raised, and I definitely felt that when I mounted the lens to the camera. It didn't have a lot of resistance to it. So as the lens gets older, I will start questioning the actual function of that rubber gasket, whereas in the Sirui one, I would say it's somewhere between the Sony one and the Sigma one. So it is there. It's a little bit thinner than the Sigma rubber gasket, but it is very raised. So those are the things you can't really tell from the pictures, but now it's time to go outside and test the autofocus and the actual image quality side by side. All right, guys, I am here at my friend Ivan's backyard. I just told him he's got the most awesomest backyard for YouTube recording, and we have landscape and lawn mowing going on. So and planes. So I take that back a little bit, yeah. But he's gonna help me actually hit my face to make sure I'm in focus. And then we'll show you what the background looks like. Look at this. We have right here, Juin B500, just blasting it 85% to just kind of give you, good God. So hopefully you guys can hear the audio. So let's do this test. So instead of me just babbling about camera stuff, I thought it'd be funny to ask ChatGPT a bunch of camera jokes. And actually, this is probably worse, but I'm gonna read it anyway as you look at the background image. Okay, editing here. So sounds like the leaf blower got closer and closer. The sound quality is not quite up to the par, so you're just gonna have to wait for another day for ChatGPT camera jokes. But I have a question for you. So I'm about to show you 4 different images from 4 different lenses, but I want you to comment below which image is most pleasing to you or which one you prefer, according to bokeh patterns, contrast levels, and the colors. All right, here we go. Lens number 1 has the warm tones and has the butteriest, blurriest bokeh or tone. Lens number 2 has the colder tone and has lots of contrast on the blue side with the swirliest bokeh. Lens number 3 has the most contrast, especially on the orange tones. Lens number 4 has the most clinical look, exact color rendition, and clean bokeh. And all of these lenses are pretty sharp, especially in the center. Alright, so you guys ready for the results? So here are the actual lens names according to its images. Let me know in the comments if any of these surprise you. Alright, so the next section is going to be video autofocus at f1.4 at 85mm. That is not an easy feat. Now, this particular test was really important to me because I filmed a lot of weddings, and you guys know how weddings work. You only get one shot and you do not want to miss your chance to blow. And yes, this test you're seeing right now is on the extreme side because fastest movement you get is when they announce there's free bubble tea at an Asian wedding. And as you can see, 3 of these 4 lenses will definitely be able to keep up with that mob. But you notice one of the lenses cannot keep up. And this is the lens I did not expect to be in the last place. And you'll see why in a second, but I did run the test multiple times to make sure that's not a fluke. So here are the results. So the lens with the worst video autofocus was Rokinon. So here's why I thought Rokinon wasn't gonna be in the last place when it comes to video autofocus. So when I first got the Sirui lens, I really wanted to test the fast burst photo autofocus test since we don't talk about that enough on lens review videos, especially when it comes to third-party Chinese lenses. So I ordered a couple male joggers from Temu to take some pictures, and Here are some results. Sony 85 1.4 absolutely killed it, nailing focus on every single shot. Sigma 85 was decent, but it did miss 21% of the focus. Okay, so I know it looks like it's in focus because the other person's in focus, but the rule of this shoot was that the person who's shooting would touch the focus to the person who they think is gonna win the actual race. So that was the rule. And here's the result from Sirui lens. And thank you Temu Potato Jet who took these pictures thinking that I was gonna actually win the race, but it did miss about 57% of the focus. So when I saw these results from Sirui lens, that's when I decided maybe I should compare it to the Rokinon lens because the price range is really close. And then being both third-party lenses, I wanted to see how it does in terms of fast burst photos on fast moving objects. I'm not sure about fast moving objects, but I'm sure Rokinon did better on photo autofocus than the Sirui, since directly comparing, Rokinon has 71% hit rate on the autofocus, whereas in Sirui had 19%. So these tests really made the recommendation pretty easy because I didn't want this video to be too long to begin with. If you have the budget and you shoot both photo and video or just photo, you definitely want to go with Sony. That's an easy recommendation. And if you have the budget and you primarily do video, you want to go with Sigma because you're not going to use the hood anyway. And if you're tight on budget, and this is where it gets kind of interesting because both of these lenses go on sales a lot. In fact, I'm going to link it in the description below so you can compare. Right now, the Rokinon is on sale, and you guys know that Sirui just launched a lens, so they have this special where if you purchase a lens which is on heavy discount, you also get a couple filters. So you get this mist filter and a clear filter as long as it's available, so check that out. In fact, let me go ahead and throw this filter on that lens right now. So this is the black mist quarter strength filter, not white mist. So here we go. So as you guessed it, that lens right there you're seeing right now is the Sirui lens. Yes, I did have to return all the lenses to lensrentals.com. They're not really cheap to rent 3 lenses at a time, unless you have a coupon code, which I might have it in the description below. So when it comes to budget, 85mm 1.4 full frame lens for Sony, you have Rokinon and Sirui as a contender. So if you're doing mostly photo, obviously I would go with the Rokinon, but if you're doing mostly video, I would definitely go with Sirui. Not that Sirui can't do photos, it can definitely nail focus on single shots. When I took this lens to New York to do some street photography, it definitely nailed focus every single time on the subject. And obviously it did really great on video autofocus, even on low light, but it does have that slight vintage look to it. And what I mean by that, I think I need to show you guys chart at this point, I know. So here's my official Sharpity Sharp chart, and right away you can tell Sirui does have a slight pincushion distortion, letting you guys know. And Rokinon is more clinical, and you can definitely tell here that it does have a colder tone. And here's what I mean by that vintage look when it translates to a chart like this. So this is shooting at f1.4, and there's some chromatic aberration compared to Rokinon, especially when it comes to corners. But I do have to remind you guys that pincushion distortion and chromatic aberration, it does exist in like a $30,000 cinema lenses, so it is definitely a quality. So it can be categorized as a character, but it's really about does it distract away from the actual image. Now I can't say this for Rokinon lens because I didn't have that lens for long enough, but the Sirui lens, yeah, I used this for over a month on several different shoots, and I can tell you guys the autofocus in video, it does stick and it doesn't hunt and pulse weirdly. And I was never fighting the lens doing these movements on a gimbal since it's so light and compact. And I know I'm doing all these tests, guys, but in reality, if you're just starting videography, man, you have it good. Back in the day when I was starting, I could never imagine you could get 85mm 1.4 at these prices. Not only that, all of these are really good. It's becoming really hard to do these lens reviews. You notice that I didn't even show you guys the autofocus motor sound is because all of them are practically silent. And for the record, Sirui did send me this document comparing 3 lenses without the Rokinon one, and I have to say, like, they're pretty close, guys. Sharpness, like corner vignetting, even this focus breathing, it's pretty minimal. Now, granted, this is from Sirui, so I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but when I'm actually using the lens, it didn't feel like a third-party lens. Now, I should tell you guys that Sirui did respond back to me when I told them about that soft aperture ring. So on production, they're gonna actually tighten that to make it a little bit stiffer so it's not spinning out of place. But I wanna hear from you guys. Like, what do you look for in a lens comparison test? Like, should I still do these bokeh ball test and like have fairy lights and take photos of that and show you guys which one has the smoothest bokeh ball and doesn't need manscaping? If you're into that stuff, let me know in the comments below. But I want to give special shout out to Yvonne for letting me borrow his backyard for doing these tests. I'll definitely keep your backyard in mind when I have to do any noise canceling videos. I'm just kidding. I appreciate that very much, and thank you to David and Vu for letting me take some photos of you while you run. Alright guys, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Till next time guys, stay in focus, at least in video.